Good morning, everyone. What a pleasure to be here to talk to the core of the PWI, the track engineering community. That's a great thing. The first thing I need to do, though, is just explain why it's me stood here talking to you this morning and not Nick Millington, who is the current president of the institution. I'm only 3 weeks away from taking over, but Nick is still the current president. Unfortunately, Nick, like many of you, is tied up in the issues around the oncoming strike, and Nick has just been seconded into the route director for Wales and Western, and he's obviously up to his neck and sends huge apologies for not being able to be here to talk to you today. But you're lumbered with me, so there we go. What I'd like to do, though, is just sort of pay a quick tribute to what Nick has done during his time as president. Nick, as you will all know, has been, in his day job, the director of the safety campaign in Network Rail and has moved the issues on on-track safety for people forward enormously. In his time in that job, it's moved further, I would argue, than it had in the previous 25 years. And I think that's a huge tribute to him in his working life. Seeing him as president of the institution is a tough act to follow because he is far more media savvy than an old bloke like me. And he has been indefatigable on Twitter, LinkedIn and other places communicating his core messages about safety. And I think it's worth just reflecting on those safety messages just for a couple of minutes. Clearly, as railway engineers, we carry a huge responsibility for safety of the line issues. We are one of the few industries in the world who actually put the public on our production line. And the safety of moving people by train is obviously paramount in our jobs, all of us. But we shouldn't be putting ourselves or our colleagues at risk in achieving those results. And what Nick has done and the work that he's done on bringing the messages about on-track safety forward is really important, I think. And I think we should perhaps, I would like, if you don't mind, just to, although he's not here, he might actually look at the recording of this. Let's just give Nick a round of applause for what he's done, if you wouldn't mind. So, have we got the presentation slides up, please? There we go. So, thank you. So what I want to move on to is a bit of a summary of where the PWI is now, and then to move on to describe to you what my presidential year is going to attempt to be about. Where are we? Well, the PWI is a pretty vibrant place, actually. The organisation of the PWI over the past 8 or 9 years has gone through an absolute transformation. The history of the PWI was long. 1884 it formed, but it remained for a long time, up until that 9-year window in the past, as what you could describe as a friendly society. There's nothing wrong with that, that's not a criticism, but it was based around its sections and the ability to bring track engineering people together in those sections for an interchange of ideas was the fundamental role of the PWI. 9 years ago, however, a journey started, which was to overlay on top of that, without changing that section structure, a professional engineering organisation in place on a par with the IMECI, the IET and the ICE. And that has been achieved. We now stand as an institution on the same ground as those big institutions which are our brothers. Within the Engineering Council, the PWI is vocal and active, and the PWI has now the ability to register people professionally. That is a big advance. And I'm pretty proud to have been asked to take up the presidency of the PWI for the next year. So what I wanted to do was just, picking up from that point, let's talk about where I want us to go. Well, we've made great progress. We've brought a change to the way the PWI presents its face to the world. That logo or strapline at the bottom, the Institution for Rail Infrastructure Engineering, is an important and meaningful comment. Whilst we continue to use the banner PWI, we are in fact open and active in all parts of railway infrastructure. With my background, I've obviously been very keen to bring electrification into the group, but we have the aspiration to be able to take membership from all aspects of rail infrastructure. We've increased our relevance and our influence in the industry, and a mark of that is twofold, really. First of all, we were asked as a professional institution to give input to GBR transition team, and we gave a fulsome response to a number of questions about the transition team from Great British Railways. So we had a voice in there. We also have seats now, 2 of them, at the table within the Royal Academy of Engineering Advisory Panel, the NEPC, which advises government on policy. I'm sitting on the hydrogen policy unit in there, and we have Joan Heary now sitting in the advisory group looking at the built environment. Those 2 issues are about the decarbonisation of our economy and, of course, the decarbonisation of the railway particularly. So we have quite an influential voice in some fairly important aspects of how the railway will be influenced and develop over the years. So what am I trying to do? Well, I'm trying to build on that. Brian Counter is sat at the front here, and Brian and I have been working with a team of people, not me personally, but a team of people from the electrification community to create the equivalent of the track diploma. We've got an electrification diploma now up and running. We've got 3 modules already in place being delivered and more modules to come for that diploma course. But it's now recognised and is achieving a great impact in giving some formal training in the specialist areas at the moment of overhead line electrification. We're about to embark upon a programme of bringing 3rd and 4th rail into that diploma course. Now that's important because the PWI offer to individuals is about training and, importantly, the broader education in engineering. And the importance of that is that the relevance of the PWI to individuals passing from university, passing from technical colleges into industry, the relevance is enhanced massively if there are career-enhancing opportunities for education and for training. And so the PWI's activities in that sense are something that I will be paying great attention to and pushing. There's also the safety issues that Nick has been pursuing. There is another strand of safety which needs to be properly focused on, and that's electrical safety. About every 18 months to 24 months, the railway either kills or life-changingly injures people through contact with live electrical equipment. Just bear that in mind. The accidents on track are mirrored by the accidents in electrical engineering. The people who suffer those accidents are usually the linesmen and the technicians working on the high voltage switchgear. That's not good. In fact, it's bad. And I will be helping to try and push that forward to get to a better result. And there is also a question in my head about the future of the organisation, the PWI itself. We've started down the path of broadening our attractiveness to other engineering disciplines. I will be advocating any and every move to make sure that we continue that along that path. Why? The PWI can only achieve anything through the money that it draws from its corporate and individual members. Setting up this session today costs money. We can only do these things, we can only have these conferences, we can only fund the development of education, fund the development of training courses, if we have strong membership. And so we need to make sure that our offer to engineers coming through university training, coming out of university, coming out of tech colleges, entering the rail industry, we need to make sure that our offer is attractive to increase our membership. Our membership stands at somewhere around 4,800, if I remember the number rightly, and we have ambition to increase that by about 350 every year. That is a tough call. That is a tough call. And I would ask all people in this room who are members to make sure that you discuss that issue with people around you in your working life. And any of you in this room who are not members, please think about what that means and consider joining the PWI. So, on a final point then, I've said that Nick's focus will be continued. We're not dropping the safety messages, that we will be adding to them. Climate change, decarbonisation. Under my presidency, I will be doing all I can to make sure that the railway is at front and centre of the nation's response to climate change, and that we are seen as a solution, not a problem. And in the post-COVID world, we've got some challenges. We need to be openly debating those challenges. The very nature of the railway will change post-COVID and because of climate change. Since 1962, when the Beeching Report was published, the railways of the UK have been passenger railways with a sort of, yeah, maybe we'll run a couple of freight trains if they're not in the way and if we can make sure they don't do any damage, and if we don't particularly worry about the appearance of them, we'll run them. That changes from here. From here on, the railway needs to become much more multimodal, because if it doesn't, it won't have a place in the future. Just bear that in mind. Passenger ridership since COVID has recovered, but it's not great. The best days were between 70 and 75% of the ridership prior to COVID. On the bad days, we're down at 40 to 50%. That is unsustainable. That is unsustainable. The railway will have to tighten its belt and change its ways. And part of that solution is about that transport strategy. Now with that, I'm going to love you and leave you and let the conference carry on its path, but I will be joining on the stand for any questions at the end of this session.